Saints fans and Who-Dats from all over the world, it's time for the Crescent City Connection with Kyle T, Bob Rose, Barry Hurstis, and the rest of the Saints News crew.
First and 10, let the story begin. It's football Sunday, the Saints marching in. We went from banging our heads to them calling us ain'ts. Now it's who they say they gon' beat them Saints. First round bye, when we made the playoff, everybody hating, cause we get to take the day off. Vince and Boogie, nobody do it better. Now we on our way to our best season ever.
All right, this is Kyle T. Mosley of the Crescent City Connection, here to give you guys our season finale wrap-up of the 2017 and 18 season. But there's much to expect for our boys in the black and gold. I think they're primed to be able to make a run at the Super Bowl. It was a surprising season for us. It was one of the highlights of my year in 2017 to see how well the boys were able to perform under Sean Payton, as well as being led by their leader on the field, Mr. Drew Brees. So I have with me this evening Mr. Bob Rose of Canal Street Chronicles. What's happening, Bob?
Greetings to you, Kyle. Greetings to Who-Dat Nation. I know the season didn't end exactly how we wanted to, but there's still a lot to be proud of these boys and a lot to be excited about moving forward. I'm doing well. Family's doing well. Hopefully everything's good with everybody listening out there as well.
Yes. And I hope everybody is having a great start to their 2018. Of course, our boys in black and gold lost against the Minnesota Vikings a couple of weeks ago. It's taken me, Bob, a few weeks to be able to process that loss. I'm sure a lot of people also in the Who-Dat Nation, like myself, had to really try to understand what happened those final seconds in Minnesota. The Saints lost 29-24 on a supposed walk-off. I'm not going to go there, Bob, but I needed to go there. On a supposed walk-off against the New Orleans Saints, where he did not cross the goal line until after 0-0-0 was on the clock. But I don't know. That's just me. I thought you had to be in the end zone. So I don't know, Bob. What's your thoughts about that? We could talk a little bit later, man. But man, that was kind of suspect.
Well, if only we could apply NHL rules to NFL football in more ways than one. But yeah, indeed. I don't know. I don't pretend to know a lot about the NHL, but I do know that the puck has to be, or if the puck isn't across the goal line before the buzzer hits at all zeros, that the goal would not count. So obviously, if it were the same way, if it were the same way in NFL football, then we would have been celebrating a New Orleans Saints trip at least to the NFC Championship game. But just like our beloved Coach Mora said very famously, woulda, coulda, shouldas. Unfortunately, we just came up a little bit short on this particular day. That's all.
Yeah, that's all it was, man. And I do know sometimes when the play is over with at 0-0-0, if the play action is still being done on the field, they do allow that. But, Bob, I mean, I think a lot of people are pleasantly surprised with what we are seeing on the field from our veterans as well as our rookies. We have had one of the most outstanding rookie classes in the National Football League, where two of our rookies are up for Rookie of the Year honors on the offensive side as well on the defensive side, with Alvin Kamara as well as Lattimore. What are you thinking about the future of this team right now?
Oh God, I mean, you can't help but to be excited about it. Like you said, Kyle, we not only have Kamara and Alvin Kamara on the offensive side and Marshawn Lattimore on the defensive side, that in my opinion should be hands down offensive and defensive rookie of the year. I know Kamara is up for Kamara is in close competition with Kareem Hunt of the Kansas City Chiefs, who also had a very good year. But I mean, just beyond those guys, Marcus Williams made all rookie as a free safety or as a safety. Ryan Ramczyk had an extremely underrated rookie year, also made the all rookie team. And Alex Anzalone, before he went on injured reserve within the first quarter of the season, he looked like a real keeper and a real athletic find at linebacker, a position that is screaming for athletic playmakers in New Orleans for a number of years now. And then you go beyond that. Our friend Al Muhammad showed some potential in the preseason as a rookie defensive end, and he looks to be able to contribute at least as a role player. But even beyond this outstanding rookie class, look at the number of players on this New Orleans team that are under 25 years old or have 3 years or less of NFL experience. Michael Thomas, Willie Snead, and I know we'll talk about him later in the show. Kikaha, Sheldon Rankins, Tyler Davison. And the list goes on and on and on. Ken Crawley was only in his second year. A lot of these Saints players have not even reached their prime yet and showed remarkable improvement from 2016 to 2017. And they all seem to have very good heads on their shoulders. And that's more important maybe than just pure talent, is that these guys are workers and dedicated to their craft, dedicated to their teammates, and happily dedicated to the city of New Orleans. And that's always been huge with this Saints franchise. So there's so much to be excited about.
Yeah, so much to be excited about. And we also had a lot of major contribution to the team from the leadership from Drew Brees, as well as Cam Jordan, and as well as Mark Ingram, and those guys represented us well, as well as Walford, man. Walford was at the Pro Bowl for the New Orleans Saints as well. If you guys did not see that game on Sunday, the NFC had a losing campaign when it came down to the final minutes of the game, where Sean Payton, I think he gambled a little bit one too many times. Should have punted the ball, but we could talk about a little bit more about that as well. But welcome to the show. We have Mr. Brendan Boylan. What's happening, BB?
Hey guys, what's up? Happy to be around. Happy to wrap up the season here. Obviously, a little disappointed when it comes to the Saints' loss against Minnesota, but I think a lot of us have to admit this is a year a lot of people didn't see coming, and if you want to be Mr. Optimistic over here, you have to be. And I think Bob made a lot of great points there with how young this team is moving forward, and Drew coming out and making it pretty clear that he wants to be around. This is a team that can make some noise for the next few years. Yeah,
definitely, Brendan. And when you look at what's happening with the team, and Drew Brees has got to be the cornerstone for us to even consider for 2018 to make another play going forward to the Super Bowl, man. And I think if we look at what's going to happen, we have a very competitive schedule that's going to be in our face again next season. But this team has learned a lot. I would say the intangibles, Bob, has really made all the world of difference. And you mentioned one, like the character of these young men that we brought on board, but also this draft class coming up is going to be highly important.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And for those that don't know, New Orleans does own the 27th pick currently in the first round of this spring's draft. Due to their finish in the standings. I do not believe, as it stands right now, they have a second-round pick, having packaged that in a trade to move up to get Alvin Kamara. But as we all know, with Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis, they have had some finds in the third round and later rounds of the draft. And when it comes to that, it is so important to have a scouting department as talented as the one that New Orleans has, led by Jeff Ireland. We just ran down a very impressive list of Saints players that are in their third years or less. And a lot of those guys are free agents or late round draft choices. Or even once you get, anybody could score, just by closing your eyes and throwing a dart at the dartboard. Anybody could score with a first round pick, just as easily as you can miss. But once you get beyond the first round, you have to figure out why guys drop that might be first-round talent. Or it's more than just a talent thing, as you know, gentlemen. It's how well a player's particular talents can fit into your system, and or whether you can tailor your system to fit this talent. What kind of person are they going to be in the locker room? Are they going to be a high-character guy? Are they going to be a very selfish player? And that, above all else, and Brendan, you pointed this out too, this team is full of high-character guys, and that, almost as much as talent itself, was a reason for the success in 2017. And you have to use the draft to build on it. You can't, as we learned with the Saints in 2014, you can't just throw a bunch of money at at big-name free agent talents. It's too much of a risk. And if you swing and a miss, you handcuff your team for, 3 years in this case. This offseason is incredibly important.
Very, very good analysis there. And we got my man from Hairy Hand, Mr. Barry Hurst, is on the line. What's going on, Barry?
Kyle, how are you, my friend?
What's happening, man? Good to hear your voice, dude.
I've been kind of taking it easy since the Saints were eliminated from the playoffs. I try not to put too much of my personal feelings into my writing, but I took that a little bit hard. I really enjoyed the Saints this year. The 2017 season was phenomenal by all accounts. One of the better Saints seasons I can ever remember in the team's history. It ranks in the probably top 5 of all time for me, just because of it was so unexpected, especially after the 0-2 start. I thought this team was headed for another disastrous season for the 4th straight year, and to my shock and dismay, or not dismay, but disbelief probably is a better term. They just exceeded expectations all year. And man, look, the best thing, and I apologize for joining you guys late, but I'm sure Bob probably touched on it in some form or fashion, that this team is set up for years to come. For years. Despite the quarterback situation, regardless of what happens with Breeze in the next few years, if they can successfully transition from Breeze to the next quarterback, whoever that's going to be, this team can be good for years, even with the next quarterback. So it's just a matter of building upon the foundation and continuing to do the things that successful organizations like the New England Patriots team about to play for its 6th Super Bowl title here in a few days, an organization like that does on a consistent basis. And that's something that this organization hasn't been doing. It just hasn't been consistently been doing that in recent years. And it's good to see them get back on track and get back to their winning ways and fully capable when things are hitting on all cylinders as they have in the last 2 years. This is the result. This is what happens, and this is where you're trying to be every year. The trick is maintaining it and staying, as the Saints learned the hard way. It's an every year battle. You can only rest on your laurels in the NFL for a couple of months, and that's it. It's just a couple of months, and then everybody's a few months later the next season rolls around and everybody's gunning for you. It's tough, man. It's tough. And so to do had the remarkable success that the Patriots have had, sustained success in what basically almost a 20-year period is phenomenal, what they've been able to achieve. So hats off to them. And that's where the Saints are trying to, and the other 30 NFL teams are trying to be. And so let's see how they can do in 2018.
Definitely. It's going to be an important year. It's going to be an important year for us as a fan base as well, because we have a team where now the fans are going to expect nothing less than excellence, right, Brendan? We're going to expect these guys going to go up there and with the core group that we have in place to really be able to make a splash. So let me ask you this, Brendan. How important will the free agency be? And do you think that we need to be one of the teams getting some high-priced free agents like Barry alluded to or Bob alluded to, we need to be careful with? Or should we just go ahead and get some really solid, guys to just come in and build some depth?
Well, I think Bob alluded to it there best, is that the way to go is building through the draft. And you can see that across numerous sports. It's NBA season. You look at how you had Barry allude to how well the Patriots have been over the last 20 years. You look at the team that's dominated the NBA in the last 5 years has been Golden State. You look at everybody outside of Kevin Durant's been a draft pick. And that's just using another sport as an example. I think building through the draft's the right way. And Bob said 2014 Saints learned the hard way. Spending a lot of money on free agents, there's a giant risk there. So I would love to see the Saints do something along the lines of grab a few role players in free agency, maybe spread that money around and pick up a guy here or a guy there, a veteran presence here, a veteran presence there, to be someone to help with the younger guys. And whether that guy actually plays a lot or not, obviously up to the coaching staff, but I'm looking at veteran pieces, and also maybe a player or two with some young talent that fizzled out with another team and may benefit New Orleans a little bit. I know a lot of fans, especially with the LSU ties, are hoping Jarvis Landry, who's expected to hit the market, would come back home. And as great as that might sound for a lot of Saints fans to have Landry and Thomas as your 1-2 punch at the receiving core, throwing a lot of money at somebody, it's not going to just lock you up. Now it's going to lock you up down the road. Remember the cap hell that we were in for a few years in New Orleans by throwing money at different players, whether it be extensions or bringing players in. You don't want to get in that situation because you have a prime period here. And Drew even said that you have something here where you can make runs for the next few years. It's a prime period to try to get another championship to New Orleans, so you don't want to lock yourself up financially by throwing a lot of money at somebody who doesn't work. I think you have contracts like this. You have contracts that are low-risk, high-reward contract, bring someone in for a little bit of money, hoping they pan out and are able to help your team down the road, and you build in the draft. And I know we don't have a second-round pick, but you know the Saints on draft day, they could very well find themselves back in the second round and the first round. And I'm sure we're going to talk about that later in the show. At the 27th pick, you can go a lot of ways. I know a lot of people want that linebacker out of Georgia, and Raekwon Smith, but also I know a lot of people are looking for the heir apparent to Drew Brees, and if Baker Mayfield somehow, some way falls there, a lot of people would be okay with that too, but building in the draft is going to be the way to go.
Good points, guys. I think when we look at the New Orleans Saints and we have to look at this team, and Barry, I think you said it best, man. You look at the success that Bill Belichick has had over the years, right? I don't ever recall them making a big free agent splash other than Randy Moss over the past several years. Can you think of any other?
No, and it just goes back to what Brendan said about and Bob about building through the draft. It's become such a lost art because everybody wants to get that free agency fix, and rarely have you ever seen many teams pull that off. The one team that always stood out to me was the 1994 San Francisco 49ers when they went out and signed Deion Sanders and Ricky Jackson and try to basically build a dream team or an all-star team, basically. That's the only Super Bowl champion that I can distinctly remember basically buying a championship in free agency. Otherwise, it's always been done through the draft. You look at some of the great championship teams of the last 20 years, the 2000 Baltimore Ravens, the Patriots, obviously, with all their championships. But what do they all have in common? The common denominator is they built through the draft. You can't, as you said, Randy Moss may be the only one true free agent player that the Patriots got. You look back at that great Ravens 2000 defense team. Ray Lewis, draft pick. All those guys, or just all draft picks. Flacco, the quarterback. It's just every single player they had that contributed to those championships were draft picks. So, Denver, same thing. With Von Miller. I mean, every single team that's had success. Seattle, same thing. Richard Sherman. I mean, I could just go down the list of the Super Bowl champions of the last 20 years, and 19 of the 20 pretty much were all built through the draft. So the Saints realized at some point it occurred to them. I'm going to say probably in the 2015 offseason when they traded Jimmy Graham and that draft where they had Kaha and all those guys coming in. I think they got it right that year. But it was just such a god-awful hole that they dug themselves in that it took them this long to get out of it, basically, is what happened. And so this was the first year where you see where they're above water. They're breathing in air again. They're back with their head above water. And now it's time to tread water. It's time to start swimming and start winning the race. Because man, the influx of young talent in these last two seasons alone is phenomenal. I can't. I'm hard pressed to go around the league and look, and maybe Jacksonville, I guess, would be the only other team I could signal out right now. If you signal out the teams that's got some of the best young nucleus of talent on a particular squad right now, you would probably say Jacksonville. I think you put New Orleans in there. I think the Saints are in there. I think they'd be in the top five for sure. The Patriots is just always going to be there until somebody knocks them down a notch. They're still always going to be on top. And you got a team like Philadelphia who's on the rise, and kind of I wouldn't say it was a shock that the Eagles made the Super Bowl this year, but it was a bit of a surprise. I don't think nobody saw that coming, not Doug Peterson of all coaches. So, but it just goes to show it can happen. All it takes is really, some solid people in the front office that know what they're doing. And you gotta, let's face it, the NFL draft is a crapshoot. It's a science, it's an art, but it's also a lot of luck. I mean, look how bad the Saints drafts of the past few. What was it? 2012 draft has one player left or no players now. So I know we're sitting here praising the Saints for how good they've been drafting. It wasn't but 2 or 3 years ago we were ragging on them and saying how horrible they were, and we were ready to run Lubis and Peyton out of town. Yeah. Let's not forget it didn't just happen overnight. This has been years in the making. I mean, this is the team that reached the pinnacle of success and then went down for a few years and now is suddenly back up again. So that's the way the NFL is, man. It's a what have you done for me lately type of business. And, again, I hate to keep bringing up the Patriots, but they're the model. They're the model of success. They're the one franchise that's consistently been able to do it. Maybe you might want to throw Pittsburgh in there or Green Bay or whatever. And I think you could put the Saints in there because the Saints, even with those 3 straight years of lack of success, you would say for the decade, the little bit over a decade that Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis regime has been in charge, and Drew Brees brought Drew Brees into town. they've been one of the more successful teams in the league. I think you'd have to rank them in the top 5 if they're at least number 5 best franchise in the last decade. So, again, man, it's the NFL is hard, man. That's why everybody loves pro football. You can be a fan of the NBA, you can be a fan of hockey, you can be a fan of beach volleyball if you want, okay? But nothing beats the pro sport, professional football. People literally live and plan their lives and live and die by what their favorite team does every Sunday. And look, it's a tough business, but the Saints are right there, and they've given their fans a lot of hope and a lot of reasons to be proud.
Definitely have been proud of these boys, especially here in 2018. I think, Bob, you were the only one who called their regular season 11-5 in the
yes, sir, I did.
show.
Yeah, he is. I called it 10-6, so they far exceeded my expectations, and I was being generous at 10-6. So certainly, I think they exceeded just about everybody's expectations this past year.
They sure did. BB, let me ask you this, man. Who exceeded your expectation offensively for the Saints?
Oh, without a doubt for me, it's going to be Teddy Ginn.
Really?
I think a lot of us knew exactly, or at least thought exactly, what he was, and that was a guy who could burn you, and he'd make a good catch 1 out of 4 times. And being here in the Charlotte area, I was warned by other writers and by fans that, listen, man, he's going to burn corners, so that doesn't mean he can catch. And a lot of people forget Ted Ginn won, I believe it's the Ohio High School Defensive Player of the Year his senior year, and was recruited to come and convert to receiver when he got to Ohio State. And that explains the bad hands over the years. But Ted Ginn also said when he signed with the Saints, they said, well, why leave Carolina? All these different things. And he said, Drew Brees is a quarterback that can prolong any career. And I think Drew did that this year. You guys might have to spot me here, but I believe Ted Ginn broke or was very close to breaking just about any single season receiving record for himself. Personal bests and catches and yards. He was pretty close if he didn't get to that pinnacle. But you look at what he was able to do, not just down the field, but he had a lot of catches over the middle over the year. And that was something that really surprised me. Obviously, I think all of us expected more out of Willie Snead this year, and he never really got going after the suspension. But Ted Ginn made some great catches in the playoff game against the Panthers. He made great catches down the stretch that weren't just deep balls. And I think Ted Ginn really showed me and exceeded my expectation of just being a burner. He was able to do a lot of different things, and he filled the role well. I think a lot of us just needed him to be a less explosive Brandon Cooks, for lack of a better term. And he was that and so much more for this team. And having Michael Thomas on the other side attracting so much attention, I'm sure was extremely helpful. But I'm going to have to go with Ted Ginn Jr.
Wow. That is a good point, man. You bring up some very good points because he was highly reliable on several occasions when the Saints needed a third down conversion, or they needed when we were in a critical point of the game where he needed to go down the field and make the catches. I can recall even in that Minnesota game, man, if it were not for a couple of his catches, we wouldn't have gone down and gotten into field goal position. So yes, Ted Ginn, very, very good pick up there, BB. Who's surprising to you, Bob, on the defensive side?
On which side? I'm sorry, Kyle.
Defensive.
Wow. I would probably say Ken Crawley. I'm a big Ken Crawley fan coming into the season anyway. And I defended him to a lot of people that wanted him run out of town on a rail and things like that. But he stepped up even beyond what my expectations of him were. And he got a lot of targets his way, because Marshawn Lattimore, from the second he stepped onto the football field, he immediately proved that he was not only a number one, but a true shutdown cornerback, and in my opinion, one of the top 5 in the game already. So Crawley saw a lot of footballs thrown his direction every single Sunday. And more so than that, when Lattimore had missed a couple of games due to injury, Crawley's responsibility was then to take on the top, in man-to-man coverage anyway, take on the top target on the other team, and he exhibited himself quite well. Kenny's an extremely physical corner, which if you get the wrong officiating crew can get some flags thrown his direction, and that of course hurts the team. But I think that Ken Crawley, obviously, as I said, he surpassed my expectations. But him and Lattimore made one of the top cornerback duos in the entire league throughout the year. And I got to say, since I was highly critical of the signing and of him as a player, close second as far as surpassing my expectations on the defensive side was Manti Te'o. Manti had a good year, especially the Saints linebacking core was downright ravaged by injury, and it was an already thin unit. And Manti, he's always been able to play the run well, but I think he stepped up his performance a little bit there. And he surprised me a little bit. He's still what I consider a liability in pass coverage, but he didn't get burned on a weekly basis to the point where the team was in danger of losing a game because of his performance on pass defense. So Te'o stepped forward very well also.
Okay, good stuff, man. And just going back to Ted Ginn, do you guys know he caught 75.7% of his catches? That's the highest he's ever had in his whole career. The best he's ever done was 60% his second year in the league. Wow.
Yeah, he had 60% once, and then there was a year, I think he was with the 49ers, where I think he was injured most of the year, so he was only targeted 3 times and caught 3 passes, so technically that's 100%.
Yeah.
But obviously you throw that out the window. And I'll second everything Brendan has said. Ginn, and I had to jump in here because you guys would make fun of me periodically during the course of the year because I was pretty critical of the Ginn signing as well. And the guy stepped up in a big way.
Yeah. Ted, he did call you brick hands and everything else. So I'm going to say it. All right. Barry, let's talk a little bit about, I think you were going to focus on the defensive side tonight. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. But before we go there, man, if you had to really say something about the coaching staff, who would be your spotlight person on the coaching staff that you would have to give some kudos to?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm going to look. There's a handful of guys. I mean, the job that Sean Payton did by going out and hiring Mike Nolan for the linebackers, and man, I can't even think of the defensive line coach's name from North Carolina State. This name escapes me right off the top of my head. I know Bob knows it. Man, I can't think of his name.
Give me a sec. I'm looking.
I'll get it for you too. Go ahead.
Well, anyway, he did a phenomenal job. Aaron Glenn.
Ryan Nielsen. Go ahead.
Wait, what was it?
Ryan Nielsen.
I'm bad with names tonight. My Alzheimer's disease kicking in. Nielsen did a phenomenal job. I thought. I think he revitalized Alex Okafor's career. Alex Okafor had kind of, had a good start as a rookie in Arizona, then he kind of faded out. And I thought Ryan Nielsen gave him new life. I think Ryan Nielsen helped him with his technique, and that was one of the reasons why Okafor was having such a big year. So Ryan Nielsen, I thought, did a phenomenal job. Obviously, Nolan did a great job with the linebackers. It's obvious that he did. Him and Manti Te'o worked together in San Diego, and you could see that connection. You could see that Te'o responds to Mike Nolan's coaching technique or his coaching style, and they mesh well together. And that was one of the biggest reasons why Te'o signed with the Saints, so he could play under Mike Nolan again. And what can you say about Mike Nolan? He's got 30 years of experience. His dad, of course, former Saints head coach Dick Nolan from 1978 through 1980. So he knows the 3-4 the concepts, even though the Saints technically run a 4-3 and play three linebackers. Technically, Nolan he can coach either scheme, so he's versatile in that aspect. But just the knowledge and the experience and the wisdom and just knowing, where to be and how to relate that to young players. Look, we almost thought he was going to turn Stephon Anthony's career around. So what does it say about Stephon Anthony that even Mike Nolan couldn't help him learn how to play linebacker? But anyway, that was a phenomenal job. Aaron Glenn, I think what Aaron Glenn's done with Ken and Crawley is fantastic. Bob touched on it briefly, but just to expand on it a little bit, there was a kid who last year some people thought was total garbage, and for him to have the year that he had was just fantastic. I think that speaks to the coaching ability of Aaron Glenn, that he was able to show Crawley some things or teach him some things, maybe technique-wise or whatever, that he that Aaron Glenn brings that experience, having played the position himself. I think he brings a perspective to coaching that maybe some DB coaches don't have, because you got to remember, not every one of these assistant coaches have played the game. Most of them have. Not all of them have. And that's why I think it hurt, even though Joe Vitt allegedly played football, I often wonder, if it correlated to his coaching, style as an assistant coach. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, so Aaron Glenn, phenomenal job. What more can you say about the job that Curtis C.J. Johnson did? You lost Brandon Cooks. I know that you just talked about Ted Ginn. Think about this. You said Ted Ginn just had the greatest career season of his NFL career. Well, who do we give credit to for that? I think Curtis C.J. Johnson gets credit for that, because he obviously taught Ted Ginn something about hanging on to the football for once in his life. So man, that's just four assistant coaches right off the top of my head that all did a phenomenal job.
Right.
And those were all guys that Sean Payton put into place, in the off season, and it paid huge dividends. So, we talk about the draft, and we talk about bringing in free agent players or whatever, but we can't overlook those staff moves that Sean Payton did. People have been on his case for years about getting rid of the quote unquote the buddies or the pals that he's had over the years, that he was keeping employed basically because they were his friends, and maybe lost sight of doing what it takes to win football games, and remember that the NFL is a business first, and friends or no friends, if the goal is to win a championship, sometimes you got to go with the best guys that do the best job, and it might not be your best friend. It might be a guy that you don't even know, but if your goal is to win a championship, then you just have to put all that to the side. And
right.
Credit Sean Payton for doing that. He had to make some tough choices. Those were guys that were his friends that he had to fire three of his friends, basically. think about that for a minute. So, and not only did he fire three of his friends, but then he went out and found three of the best guys you could possibly get to take their spot. So, again, man, it just everything fell right for this team, with the exception of the last 10 seconds in Minnesota. This team had a lot of fortunate breaks go their way this year. We talk about all the things that went bad, because of how the season ended, but we didn't take into account all the things that were fortunate for them that fell their way. And that's what the NFL, you got to have a good team, and it's about being the best at what you do. But again, you can't stress it enough. Sometimes you got to have a little luck go your way too. No, you can't tell me right now that 3 weeks ago any of you guys thought that Nick Foles was going to lead the Eagles to the Super Bowl. I guarantee you, not any of you sitting here listening to this conversation right now, honestly, in your heart to hearts, thought that Nick Foles was going to get the Eagles to the Super Bowl. And it just goes to show you. It's a lot about having skill and playing and being the best at what you do, but sometimes you just got to have a little luck on your side, too. I'm sure the Patriots will relate to that. Because, they've been good enough to win what might be their 6th Super Bowl, but they've also had a little luck on their side, too. So that's just the way the ball, that's just the way the things go sometimes. And for the Saints, they were fortunate this year that things started to go their way again. And now it's time to seize upon the opportunity. You have a window of opportunity there now to really be a serious contender for years to come. Not many teams get this opportunity. I think a team like Jacksonville right now is another team poised right there in the AFC, on the AFC side. If this is truly the end if we're seeing the end of the New England dynasty, if this is going to be their last year or two of their brilliant 20-year run, I think that's the team to watch out for in the AFC is Jacksonville. I think the team in the NFC to watch out for is New Orleans. I think the Rams. If the Rams can build upon what they did this year, they're a team that's going to be dangerous in the future. So even Minnesota with that defense, they figure out their quarterback situation. They're going to be back. I mean, it's going to be tough, man. You can't even bat an eyelash, or you can go from the outhouse to the penthouse, or the penthouse right back to the outhouse. The margin of error is so thin in the NFL from any other professional sports league. I mean, man, just one bad draft can cripple your team for 2 or 3 seasons, until you get back to track. So,
Barry, let me ask.
You saw what happened to the Saints with that 2012 draft, where they got no players left. 2013 draft, one guy left. So, so back-to-back years of one player remaining out of 2 drafts. And it set them back 3 years. It set them back 3 whole years before they were able to get back on track. So again, man, it's a fine art, it's a fine science, but again, it's also about having a little luck. And finally, the Saints had a little luck on their way this year.
Yeah, Barry, you had a lot to say, man, and makes me miss the professor a lot too, because he had a lot to say.
Yeah. I know, and I apologize for getting off track there, but look, let me tell you what the Saints need to do in 2018, because I was supposed to be breaking down the defense.
No.
I apologize for getting sidetracked, but look, when I get on a roll, I just let it roll. So
that's okay, man.
I haven't been on with you guys in a while, but long story short. The Saints defense, they went from
hold on, time out, Bear. Hold time out. We're gonna go into that, man. We're going into that. I just needed to bring some levity there, man. Because I'm thinking about the professor, man, and over our 7 years being together, he went on some serious rants.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
There'll be times 10 minutes later, I'm saying, Professor. He's like, I'm like, okay. So I just I miss my friend, miss my buddy, man. BB, let me ask you this.
Well, I would say, looking at it, not to get too emotional about it, but I think he. looking back on it, had he been with us this year, I think he'd have been very proud of what they accomplished. I think this would have been one of his favorite seasons for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It's the way I looked at it. You know, I didn't have high hopes. You know, I was optimistic, but I wasn't overly overwhelmed or thought that, that they were a legitimate championship contender. I mean, how they ended the season was certainly never in my wildest imagination did I see them going that far and being that serious of a. I mean, you're talking 10 more seconds, and they're in the NFC Championship game. 10 seconds away from the NFC Championship game. So, it's just a phenomenal achievement. You got to be excited. If you're a Saints fan right now, you have to be excited. Even though it's very disappointing how the season ended, and I mean, it even took me almost two weeks to recover from it personally. But you put a happy face on it and just say, look, man, you got to be excited to think that your favorite team, your favorite football team, is a top five franchise in the league. I mean, that's exciting. Yeah. And can only potentially can get much better. So we'll just have to see how it unfolds from here on out.
Yeah, I am excited, man. I'm excited about the potential of the team. And BB, I was going to ask you this, man. As far as let's go back to Drew Brees, because I think everything filters through his presence on the New Orleans Saints team. Do you think the way the Saints played this year helped to extend the longevity of Drew Brees, as well as gave him a little extra kick to expect some greater things if he re-signs and comes back to the team?
Oh, absolutely. It's not just a rookie quarterback's best friend, a run game. I think it's every quarterback's best friend is a running game. And the way that the Saints went about it this year, I think is going to do nothing but help Drew down the road in terms of how much longer he's going to play. And, the guy said he wanted to play till he's 45. I don't know about that. And I know the Saints are going to take it a year at a time in terms of his contract. At least that's what I'm hearing. So for me, I think having Alvin and having Mark in the backfield doing what they're doing, not just running the ball, but you also have to remember these swing passes, these screen passes, and these checkdowns that they are so great at catching the ball and moving in open space. Those are essentially extended handoffs as well. So I think it's only going to help Drew. I think that you might want to call it padding the stats a little bit, but it's really going to help him get to some of those milestones that he has an opportunity to get to, and that's yards and touchdowns over the next few years. To answer your question, yes, it does nothing but help prolong what Drew's able to do. When you look back to 2009, and I'm not the one who likes to sit there and compare seasons back and forth, but you look at 2009, why were the Saints so good? They could run the ball. So I think going down the road, the Saints team can only do great things on the offensive side of the ball and get back to what has made the Peyton and Brees era so special in New Orleans.
Definitely. All right, guys, we're going to kind of take a little different turn right now, and we're going to go over some of what to expect for 2018, how the team needs to improve in certain areas. So let's start with you, Bob. Let's start with the offensive side of the ball. Talk to us about where the Saints did well, but also where we need to be able to kind of help out in certain areas or find some talent to be able to add some depth or to add some pieces that's much needed in our offense.
Okay. There's a lot to cover. Well, a lot to cover on both sides of the ball, as there is with every NFL team this into an off season. But first and foremost, and Brendan hit the nail on the head, the Saints running game was by far their most impressive aspect of the offensive side of the ball this season. We knew what Ingram could do, and he stepped it up even a little bit more. The guy could be a feature back for most NFL teams. He's never had to be a feature back in New Orleans just because of the kind of running back by committee system that Sean Payton has always preferred to run. But that brings us into why and how big the drafting of Alvin Kamara was to this entire Saints offense this past offseason. And Barry and I spoke privately a lot about Kamara when they made the pick, even before they made the pick. That everybody was talking about Peyton was in love with Kamara coming into the draft, and there's a lot of reasons why. But the average fan was just talking about him, Alvin, that is, as a pass-catching back, and he's going to fill the Darren Sproles, Reggie Bush role in this offense. And, Barry and I privately had always been like, people have got to see this guy run the ball too. He is a good running back. And once he got onto the field, we saw exactly, everybody else saw exactly what we were talking about. Kamara has the ability also to be a feature running back. And him and Ingram, he kind of shadowed Ingram all year. Kyle, you touched upon it early in the show when you said Mark Ingram's leadership was a key to this team's success as well. And particularly Ingram's leadership to Kamara and the other young Saints offensive stars. The two just meshed perfectly. And we know about the numbers. Not only running the ball, but like Brendan said, catching the ball out of the backfield. Ingram is a trusted check down option for Breeze, and Mark deserves a lot of credit because coming out of Alabama, he was a pure running back, and that is anybody that watches college football knows that Nick Saban Alabama teams, they run the football. They don't do a lot of passing unless they have to. And when they do, it's deep down the field off of play action. So Saban's running backs have never been heavily involved in the passing game. So Ingram has had to work hard on not only his receiving skills, but also his pass blocking skills. And he doesn't get nearly enough credit for his improvement in those areas since he came into the league. And that's what makes him such a dangerous offensive weapon, the fact that he can stay on the field for all three downs. And then, back to Kamara. Kamara's receiving abilities are unquestioned, and especially later in the season, as Alvin had grasped the Saints playbook a little bit better. Peyton and Pete Carmichael, the offensive coordinator, they were starting to move Kamara all over the formation, which made this kid nearly unstoppable because anybody that lines up across from him, he's a mismatch nightmare. There's not a linebacker in the league that can consistently keep up with him. So Kamara is obviously more than a check down option. As we saw from his 81 catches, that was second on the team and tops among running backs in the NFL. Moving into the wide receiving core, we talked about Ted Ginn Jr., and the guy did have a surprisingly effective season. Not only in just, you look at the numbers and he had a good season, but more than that, like Brendan said, he was catching a lot of passes over the middle, really a lot of shorter passes that he was turning into longer gains. So he proved to be more than just a deep threat. He's a better, well-rounded receiver than what a lot of us, and I bow my head in shame here, what a lot of us had anticipated and had seen throughout his career. And Michael Thomas should be considered one of the top receivers in the NFL. Okay, you want to say Julio Jones and Antonio Brown are the best two receivers in the NFL? I'll give that to you. Name me another receiver outside of those two that are better than Michael Thomas as far as all-around abilities. The list is very, very short. Thomas, as we know, set a team record with 104 catches, 1,245 yards receiving, and the guy is nearly unstoppable on the shorter and intermediate routes. And Drew knows it. Breeze knows that he can put the ball anywhere in Thomas's direction, and the man's catch radius is outstanding. He has great body control, runs nice, crisp, sharp routes, and uses his body well and underrated athletic ability. I'll tell you what the Saints need to do, though, in this offseason. In my opinion, they need to really concentrate and look at what they have at wide receiver outside of Thomas. Yes, we've talked all night about how impressed we have been by Ginn. That's not your long-term answer, and I think it's a dangerous roll of the dice to come into next year as him as your unquestioned number 2 wide receiver. Is the answer on the roster? It could be. Willie Snead has put up some numbers the previous 2 years to this, as we know. But in my opinion, and I've said it before, Snead is the biggest individual disappointment on the 2017 Saints. He came into the year, he was suspended for the first, I don't remember whether it was the first 3 or 4 games, due to a DUI, first 4 games, due to a DUI. And then when he came back, he had tweaked his hamstring, and he wasn't right after that. He had 6 receptions on the year. 6. After 2 previous years of flirting with 1,000 yards receiving, and that is a third option, behind Brandon Cooks and Michael Thomas. Now the team needed him to step up a little bit more, and he laid an egg this season. Can he be the answer? Possibly, but the Saints coaching staff has to take a good hard look at that. Snead is going to be a restricted free agent this offseason. So he's going to be under a microscope, as is Brandon Coleman. Brandon Coleman, I'm a big fan of Coleman's, and I've been on record as saying that. But Coleman has been, let's just say he's not the next Marcus Colston, as some people were touting him to be. Coleman is not a number 2 receiving option on this team, and would be unwise to count on him to do so. He's a terrific blocking wide receiver and has worked on his short and intermediate routes and his hands well in the last 2 or 3 years. But I think he's a number 4 option at best. So I think that they really gotta bring in some new talent, be it through the draft or through mid-tier free agents this offseason. And we'll circle back to that. And I know we'll talk a lot about free agency and the draft and shows throughout the offseason. But bouncing back to the Saints offensive line, the unsung heroes of the 2017 New Orleans Saints offense, no doubt about it. And as it is any offense, you have to protect your quarterback and you have to open up holes for your running game. We've talked about how talented Ingram and Kamara are. Well, they need those guys up front to open up holes. And the drafting of Ryan Ramczyk as their second number 1 pick, they had to plug him in at right tackle once Zach Streif went down. And he looks...
The secret's out. Young Sheldon is the fall's best new sitcom.
Kaboom!
And everyone wants in on the action.
A cheerleader hugged me to her bosom.
That's amazing.
No more high fives. I can't keep washing my hands.
Young Sheldon, CBS Thursdays.
Which Prince song is Justin Timberlake more likely to cover during the halftime show?
I actually wrote a story about this. Let's Go Crazy, I think, is the answer, because Purple Rain, you can't – I think that it has to be sort of a medley situation, right?
What was that all about?
I was waiting for it myself.
Yeah, sorry about that. I stepped away from the studio and then talking about Purple Rain. Go on.
I don't even know where to go with that. But now we were talking about the Saints offensive line, and this group did a terrific job this year. And what's exciting about these guys, Teron Armstead, Andrus Peat at left guard, Max Unger, Larry Warford, and Ryan Ramczyk. The oldest among those guys is Unger at 31 years old. Everybody else is under 30. And these guys are not only strong at the point of attack, but they're all sound technicians, and they're all athletic and enough to get into the second level of the defense. So if you're going to say that the Saints offensive line is the lifeblood of this offense, then there's a lot to be excited about. I said Willie Snead was the most disappointing player on the Saints offense, if not the entire team. I think a couple of names to keep an eye on as we enter free agency. One guy that I'd really love to see New Orleans take a look at is Adam Humphries from Tampa Bay. We've gotten an up-close and personal view of him twice a year for the last few years. And in my opinion, a player like Humphries would fit in perfectly with a Drew Brees type of offense. But like I said before, we'll have plenty of time to talk about, free agency and, potential draft prospects. But the Saints offense, they struggled on third down a lot this year. They were mid-level. I think they finished 18th or 19th in the league in third down conversion percentage. And that was after ranking number 1 in the league last year and being at the top of the league the last handful of seasons. And what was a real head-scratcher about that is, you have a team that struggles so much on third down when you have Drew Brees behind center and, when you have weapons like Kamara and Ingram and Michael Thomas, you have to wonder why the struggles on third down. And it was difficult to put your finger on it during the course of the season, other than the tight end position, and that's something that we haven't brought up yet. Coby Fleener went down early in the year, and let's be honest, guys, he wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire beforehand. We don't necessarily need a 2011 Jimmy Graham type of player to step in at this position, but this position definitely does need addressed in this offseason. I mentioned if I was in the Saints front office, I would take a good hard look at bringing in multiple receivers. I would take an even harder look and higher on my priority list. You have to bring in a number 1 tight end. We know that Drew is most effective in the intermediate zones. He has great check down options with Ingram, and he has his number 1 target in Michael Thomas. He has his versatile game-breaking threat in Kamara. He needs a security blanket at tight end. I don't think Coby Fleener is the answer. And definitely the players behind Fleener proved that they weren't the answer once Coby went down with a concussion, I believe it was, and he was shelved for the season.
Well, Bob, let me ask
you. Yes, sir.
Can I ask you a quick question? Because and this has been on my mind about the tight end position as well. Other than probably retaining Human, right? Do you keep Josh Hill as well, or do you try to find somebody in free agency, or is it better to just try to draft a kid probably in 3rd, 4th round?
I would do both. I would definitely look to draft somebody in a 3rd round type, and I do have my favorite one, by the way. But I would also look around free agency and see who's available. Now, they've gone that route before. They did it with Coby Fleener, and through a pretty big contract at him to bring in. And many of us felt that Fleener would be a terrific answer for the position, and that unfortunately didn't turn out to be the case. As far as keeping Hill around, I don't know Josh's contract situation. I'm pretty sure he's still under contract. And if so, it can't be for that much of a high cap number. So I would keep him around, certainly for competition. And he has proven to be a decent threat near the goal line. But I wouldn't count on him as definitely not a number 1 option. And frankly, I wouldn't. If he's going to be your number 2 tight end in 2018, he's going to have to earn it. So, like I said, I would look to bring in a free agent, and I would definitely draft one. My favorite player there is in the draft, and I'm a bit of a homer when I say this, is Mike Gesicki from Penn State. He's a very athletic prospect. A real competitor too. He can make plays down the field, and he's a pretty good inline blocker as well. And he's projected, as of right now anyway, he's projected to be a 3rd to 4th round pick.
Okay, good stuff, man. All right, let's kind of focus on the defensive side, Barry.
All right, well, unfortunately, I'm not going to have as detailed a breakdown as Bob did on the offense. Because quite frankly, I forgot we were even on the air until a few hours ago when Kyle messaged me. So as far as preparation, a lot of this is just going to be off the top of my head. But as I was alluding to a few minutes back, this is a defense that's been horrendous for the last 3 years coming into the 2017 season. They were, I believe, ranked 27th overall in 2016. They finished 10th overall when the season was done. So you're talking about a defensive unit that improved 17 spots. And what have we always been saying? We say it every year pretty much. Before the season started, we even said it again. I remember having our preseason preview. We alluded to it when we said, if you give Drew Brees a top 10 defense, the Saints are a Super Bowl contender. And so what happened? You gave Drew Brees a top 10 defense, and lo and behold, they were a Super Bowl contender. So, we say it every year, and it still rings true, and it's been the case pretty much for every year of the Sean Payton, Drew Brees era. If you give this team, if this team a top 20, they don't have to be top 10, the top 20 rankings of the overall defensive rankings, then with the Saints offense just being consistently being one of the top offenses every year, if you just give them an average defense, they'll be successful. And so to see them improve all the way into the top 10, man, that's just phenomenal. And we see the results of that. So now they have the opportunity to stay in the top 10 if they can build upon the success of 2017. So the biggest thing, I think, is even though as improved as they were last year, I don't think I think there's areas that still can be improved on. Even though they were number 10 defense, they can be even better. And to me, the biggest weakness clearly is that linebacker. You're missing a game changer. And when I say a game changer, I'm talking about a Von Miller from Denver. I'm talking about a Miles Jack from Jacksonville. Those type of players. Before he got hurt, Shazier from Pittsburgh. Just the guy who every down, every single down. And I ain't just talking about on pass rush downs or what. I'm talking about a guy that you would insert in the Saints defense. Anyway, you would call him the middle linebacker, I guess, or an inside linebacker, 3-4. You get a lot of technical terms. We get a lot of technical aspects of it, but a playmaker. You need a guy, or what I call a game changer, a guy who is so good. If you're an older Saints fan, you think back to Ricky Jackson or Pat Swilling, even on the opposite side, linebackers who made an impact. But those guys were pass rushers, and so it's kind of like a defensive end. Now, the difference between an outside linebacker and a pass rushing defensive end really isn't. They're basically the same player. So it's all about scheme and alignment, and so you get into a lot of technical stuff. But the linebacker I'm talking about is basically what you would refer to as an inside linebacker. So A.J. Klein, great player, or I don't want to say great in the sense that he's an all-star or anything, or all-pro, but a solid performer, but he's not all-pro caliber. He's not a Pro Bowl caliber player, but capable of starting in the NFL. But he's not the fastest guy. He's solid, but he's not fast. And so the Saints need to, and he's not old. I think he's only 26. But Klein's certainly young enough, and he's a good enough player to start on your defense. But you can do better. And the teams that are in the Super Bowl right now are doing better. So and the Eagles obviously have some great players at that position. So. There's not really much in free agency. Nigel Bradham, the inside linebacker for the Eagles, who's going to be playing this Sunday, is probably the top free agent linebacker, inside linebacker. Zach Brown's out there, but I don't know how much faith I would put into bringing in Zach Brown. I don't know if he's the answer to what the Saints need. I just think the Saints need to draft a young linebacker. There's a kid named Leighton Vander Esch from Boise State, who I'm very high on. He's my personal favorite linebacker that I'd like to see the Saints draft in this draft. Who knows what the Saints will do at 27 if they stay at 27. Look, this whole Kirk Cousins thing is kind of throwing things up in the air because, look, there's a quarterbacks are going to fall in this draft. So, will the Saints stand pat at 27? Yeah, maybe they will. I'm sure they will. But who knows? I mean, who knows? Do not. Yeah, and I don't know if Bob touched on this at the beginning of the show because I missed it, but do not, for 1 second, assume or make the assumption that the Saints will not package up some picks and move up in this draft. They have 2 fifth-round picks. They have two sixth-round picks. Obviously, they don't have a second, but look, make no mistake about it. If Sean Payton thinks that if they really like this Baker Mayfield kid out of Oklahoma, and Sean Payton thinks that that's his guy, he just says, hey, that's my guy. That's the guy I think I want to be the next quarterback after Drew retires. Don't for 1 second think that Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis won't make the move to trade into the top 5 or the top 10 or whatever and make that pick. They'll do it. Believe me, they'll do it. And I guarantee you, a kid like Mason Rudolph of Oklahoma State, Riley Ferguson from Memphis, a good quarterback, a really solid quarterback who could play possible, NFL starting caliber quarterback, is going to be available to the Saints. Make no mistake about it. I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody's going to fall, and it might even fall all the way down to 27. So I know we're already projecting the Saints to take linebacker probably for that first pick, but do not be shocked at all if they go for a quarterback. So, but that's what they need for the defense. They could use another pass rusher. Alex Okafor is technically a free agent. Everybody expects that he'll resign with the Saints because the way his season ended, ruptured the Achilles tendon. I think everybody makes the assumption that he'll be back with the Saints, and I would expect that he probably will re-sign with the Saints. But stranger things have happened, and I've seen articles already suggesting that other teams, there's 32 teams in NFL free agency. The Saints aren't the only team in free agency, so. I've already seen articles across the internet suggesting some NFL teams should pursue Alex Okafor in free agency since he will be a free agent because he only signed a 1-year deal last year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But regardless of whether the Saints re-sign Okafor or not, I still think they could get you got Kaha there coming back. I don't know if what's going to happen with Kaha, if they're going to keep him around or if they're going to, move on from him. Trey Hendrickson, the rookie last year, has got some talent, a lot of potential there, but, we'll have to see how that works out. And then you got George Johnson, the veteran there. So they could stand they honestly could draft another defensive end on the opposite side of Cam Jordan, a position that a lot of people thought they were going to pick number 1 last year. They wound up going with Lattimore at the cornerback position, which wasn't a bad pick, obviously. So, but I just think that if you're the Saints and you don't address the quarterback position, because I don't think you can wait around. You're not going to get somebody fall in your lap, in a 5th-round pick from Slippery Rock University or something. It's not just going to land in your lap. I just don't think that's going to happen. If you think your quarterback is there this year, you got to trade up and go get him. Otherwise, then you just keep building up the defense and make the defense better because, as Minnesota showed you, even when you don't have the best defense, if you don't have all the pieces in place, then you're just not going to make it to you're not going to get to that next level. The only thing to me that the Saints are missing right now, that's the difference between them being a legit powerhouse and just maybe a contender. The difference between just being a contender and being a top number one, number two team in the league is a linebacker. If you get a game changer at linebacker, like I said, Von Miller, Miles Jack, those type of players. That's the top linebacker, Deion Jones for Atlanta. I hate to say it, but he's one of the best linebackers in the NFL right now. So, you need a athletic guy who can just take over a game to just make plays, make a tackle in the backfield, or break up a pass, cover a tight end and break up a key pass on third down. Those type of plays. I mean, you just every time you put it, as bad as Denver's offense was, Von Miller single-handedly keeping them in games because of his playmaking ability. And that's the type of player that the Saints are lacking. Alex Anzalone was a rookie. A lot of talent, a lot of potential, but the knock on him coming out of college was that he was injury prone. As we see so far, that's been an accurate assessment. It's followed him into the NFL. Hopefully he can shake that label and could stay healthy and stay on the field, because he's got a lot of talent. And if the Saints could put another linebacker with another speedy, talented linebacker at that inside position, and then you put him in the inside with Anzalone, and then you could take Klein and put Klein out to the outside on the strong side, and man, I mean, you talk about having just imagine if you had Leighton Vander Esch, a healthy Alex Anzalone, and a healthy AJ Klein out at the Sam linebacker position, and have Robertson and Teo as your backups. Those guys are your backups. So I mean, the Saints could go from a position of weakness to a position of strength. All it takes is one guy. We saw with Marshawn Lattimore, getting just that one guy who is the absolute best player at his position can change the entire outlook of your team. I mean, just think about it. Think about how bad the Saints defensive backs or the Saints pass defense or pass coverage was in those 3 years that they were bad. 3 consecutive losing seasons. That was the biggest thing that everybody talked about, was how horrible the Saints defensive backs were and how easy it was. I mean, they were giving up the most points in the league. They gave up a league record most yardage. I think it was in 2015. So, they were horrible. They were abominable. So to go from that level, and that's how good of a player Marshawn Lattimore is, that bringing him in single-handedly changed them from a number 27 defense to number 10. I mean, that's how big of a difference having now one phenomenal player can impact your team, your entire team. And so if the Saints can get that type of player, linebacker, I feel that would be the one move to me that would put them completely over the top. That, and I think getting a tight end for the offense. I heard Bob say it, and I totally agree. Kobe Fleener, man, is not the guy. He's just not. And so if they can get a legitimate pass catching tight end for the offense and a game changer at linebacker, the New Orleans Saints will be a viable, serious threat to win the Super Bowl every year for at least the next 5 seasons.
Okay.
I feel that confident about it. No matter how many years Breeze plays or not, as long as they get a smooth transition to the next quarterback and keep building upon this current roster. And like I said, you're basically a tight end and a linebacker away from just dominating the NFC. I'm serious. They potentially could be that good. But again, you gotta seize the opportunity. You gotta seize the moment, and you gotta build upon it. You can't, because all it takes is one off year, one bad year, and you're right back to square one. So you got to remain consistent, and that's what New England's been able to do. I hate to keep bringing them up, but that's what they've been able to do for 20 years almost. For 20 years. I mean, we're talking 2001 when that first started. We're in 2018 now, so we're over 17 years. I mean, man, that's phenomenal. That's just phenomenal success. Even when we were all guys coming up, we remember the Pittsburgh Steelers dynasties of the 70s and the 49ers of the 80s. But, man, what the Patriots have done, it just blows that away by comparison, in my opinion. So, and that's where the Saints need to get. That should be the Saints' goal. That should be the goal that they want to achieve. You don't have to mirror New England's success, but you want to achieve that level of success. And I think the Saints are right there at the doorstep. They're potentially right there, but they got to stay on it because again, it's a dog-eat-dog world, and if you don't stay on top of it, somebody else will take your spot quick.
Yep, and that is life in the National Football League. Man, you guys bring up some great points. Brendan, is there anything that you've seen that the Saints may have that Bob as well as Barry kind of overlooked, or what the Saints should possibly do for 2018?
Man, between the two of them, you and I know they don't overlook anything. And even with Barry coming on saying, I didn't have a lot of research, Barry, you must be lying to everybody, or you are a better writer than everybody already thinks, because you're phenomenal. And between the two of you, you guys didn't overlook a single thing.
Yeah, they did a great job, didn't they? Diva, is that you? Okay, well, somebody's calling from Houston. We have you on the line. You want to share something? Okay. All right. So anyway, let's go ahead on and kind of wrap up the show, guys. So 2018, we have a lot to talk about. We're going to go ahead before April and the draft come around. We're going to have a couple shows dedicated to the draft and some prospects. And I know.
Well, I was going to suggest if you wanted to do one for the NFL free agency is March 14th. So if you wanted to do one, I believe March 14th is a I guess 12:01 a.m. midnight on March 14th. Actually, I think it's either Wednesday or Thursday. So maybe we could do a show if you'd like for NFL free agency.
Sure. Hey, man, that works for me. So now we're going to have a free agent show. Thank you, Barry. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's happening at the Combine and headed into the draft. So we'll have a couple of shows then. We're going to be off a couple of weeks, guys, especially I know the Super Bowl is coming up. But we'll be back.
No, it isn't. I refuse to acknowledge it.
Yeah, you refuse to acknowledge it? Okay, all right. Look, the professor used to always say, man, and, he and I had some really deep conversations on a day-to-day basis most of the time. But he said, the window of opportunity, Drew Brees, that 2011 team was surely a Super Bowl caliber team. This surely was a Super Bowl caliber team as well. Yeah. And I just think there are certain things that the how do I say it? There's just a couple of things that haven't pushed us over to that next step. And that 10 seconds there was evidence within itself that we just didn't do enough in preparation. Where could this be the year where the New Orleans Saints do just enough to prepare the young talent that's already on staff, but also prepare these guys to be seasoned enough to be able to make the most of what they have in front of them? And we have to really applaud the team as well as the organization. Guys, we had the most starters on IR out of any, and not only starters, but also other role players that we lost on IR, and this team still was few seconds away from the NFC Championship. And we have to applaud them for what they have done, as well as applaud Sean Payton and his staff from what they were able to accomplish as well. So the talent is there, and not only is the talent there, I think the heart is there. And Marcus Williams, I've got to say this, and I know, Bob, you wrote a little something about this as well as Barry. We've got to support this young kid because just earlier in that game, we were applauding him for the excellent effort for the interception. We still have to support our team, our players. No matter if they make mistakes, this is life. This is real life. Everybody makes mistakes. I make mistakes on a day-to-day basis. We got to be able to forgive, forget, move on. And right now, the best thing we can do in the Who Dat Nation is to continue to support him for what he's going to become for this organization. All right, guys, I had a couple of announcements to make for 2018. First thing we're going to have, Barry doesn't know this yet, but Barry, he's going to have his own show. whether he likes it or not. And Bob also, he's going to have his own show as well. And BB, you are more than welcome to have in your own spot if you have time allotted in your schedule. So I'm offering all that to my talented crew here with the Crescent City Connection and Saints News organization. And I must announce that I am retiring the mic for myself.
The hell you are. We're not letting that happen.
Yes. So this is something I've been kicking around for several years, and Professor and I had kicked it around, and he had made me promise not to do it every year. But I think this is time that I need to bring in the young talent and allow you guys to be able to progress and cultivate it in whatever way that I can. I'm still going to be here. Producing and as well as encouraging you guys in anything that you need. So we've always been that type of organization here at Saints News. We have had some very talented people like BB. We have brought in Kevin Buckles. If you guys don't recall, Kevin was an outstanding talent, young guy finishing college right now as well. He's also is editor of his school newspaper in California. So, we have been blessed here, and we've had the talents of Sharita the Diva Baptiste for several years, Remy Jones for several years, Kenny the Body Snatcher Times, our old resident pro, and of course the Professor. We miss him dearly as well. So, but anyway, Saints News is going to continue. We're going to continue doing well. We're going to continue to put the best out there for our readers and listeners in the Who Dat Nation. We want to become the resource for our fans, and not only our fans, but any fan of the New Orleans Saints. And we want to do more partnerships out there as well. So that's why we don't have a problem working with John Hendricks, Deuce Wyndham, and those guys over at Canal Street Chronicles. And we don't have a problem with partnering with anybody on Facebook. Sean and those guys with their podcast and John Pinto with those guys at the I forgot under the dome as well. So we are very supportive of anybody who would like to do anything in conjunction with us here at Saints News Radio, man. And I just want to let you guys know I'm very proud of Barry, Bob, Brendan, and Sharita and Remy. We had a great, fantastic 2018. I look forward to 2017. And I look forward to 2018 to really know that we're going to have more of a great time. So it won't be the last time you hear my voice, but thank God it's going to be the last time you hear much of my voice. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the most important thing, guys, is that the New Orleans Saints are primed to do some great things in 2018. And I can't wait to see Drew Brees next season break Peyton Manning's record and become the all-time NFL yardage leader at quarterback. Think about it. A guy barely breaking 6 feet tall is breaking all type of records, and he's doing it with a lot of class and finesse. So we gotta say, hey, we love Drew and the Saints organization, and you know in the back of their minds they're not gonna let Drew go. So we're gonna find a way, and I'm pretty sure they're gonna find a way to be able to work it out. All right, guys, we got some important free agents out there, and we can talk a little bit about that on another show. Senio Kelemete comes to my mind as one of the free agents that we need to re-sign. What he did this season for that Saints organization, when Pete went down, when this guy went down, when Walford was hurt, when this guy was hurt, man, kudos to Kelemete, unsung hero for the team, guys. You know, I don't think anybody can say he wasn't an important cog in that wheel on the offensive line. Young Ramczyk, looking forward to seeing him in the Pro Bowl pretty soon. And, you know, I'm just looking forward to high things from these guys all in all in 2018. Any last words, BB?
You know, you talked on Marcus Williams there just a little bit before you had your announcements. The one thing I want to keep in people's mind is the guy's as old as I am. I'm actually older than him by a few months. The guy's 21 years old.
Wow.
Misplayed the ball, made a mistake. There's guys my age making that same mistake in college football. And like you said, he had a phenomenal year. He had a great interception to keep us in that game. Just like you would any 21-year-old kid. Pick him up, make sure he doesn't let his head sink, and just be with him, because that's something that he's going to have to live with for a long time.
Yeah, you're right.
So that's just the reminder I wanted to put out there. You know, I knew you and especially Derek, the professor, were talking about the whole hanging it up thing, even when I came aboard a few years ago and trying to pass the mic along. And I think it's a great time to do that. And I love seeing all your Facebook posts online of you and your family. And I'm glad you get to hang out with them a little more and kind of take a step back. But I know that you're leaving it in capable hands, and we'll see where I go too. You know, like I said the last time I was with you guys, it's my free agency period, figuring out where I'm going. So thanks for all the love and support over the last couple years as I've figured a lot out here at Gardner Webb, and I'm walking in May the 12th. That's a Saturday.
Awesome.
I walk across the stage, filled out all that paperwork. I'm good to go. So that's an exciting time. But thank you guys for all that. You guys listening, this won't be the last time you hear my voice. And as always, give me a listen, give me a shout, whether that be on Twitter at BT Boylan, and listen to the show, my own show, The Butler's Pantry, going on at 4:00 p.m. tomorrow on WGWG.org, Super Bowl breakdown with myself, Thomas Manning, and one of my color analysts here for football, Zach Oxendine. We're all breaking that down. So, but it all comes back to hearing the opportunity I got with you guys. So thanks for that.
Hey, no problem. You know where to come anytime you need anything supportive. You need references. Hey, I am here at any time. Okay. Let's see, Bob. Any last words?
Oh, wow, so many. first of all, congratulations, Brendan, and thank you, for the help and support that you have given to me along the way. Thanks to each and every single one of you, really, and not the least among the listeners out there. You guys interact with me on Facebook and on Twitter. You give me advice, you give me input. I'm sure a lot of people know by now Barry Hurstis was the person that got me started in this industry in the first place. Gave me my first writing gig. So you guys, if you if you want to yell at Barry for getting my foot in the door, you know how to reach him on Twitter. But thank you, Barry, for giving me my first shot at this. Thank you, John Hendricks, if you're listening. You're such a terrific boss to work for as well. John is my boss at the Canal Street Chronicles. A bunch of great writers, as you pointed out, Kyle, and we all work very closely together. Canal Street Chronicles and the Saints News Network, and this is much like our New Orleans Saints. This is a team effort, and we really do strive to bring you listeners and you viewers of podcasts. We really do strive to bring you the best possible product. So if there's something that you want to see or hear or talk about, I promise you every single one of our ears and phone screens and computer screens are always open for you. So please keep in touch with us. Sean Williams, Alan Ulrich, if you're listening, you guys have been a tremendous help to my career as well. And I'm hoping that this is just the beginning for me. I've learned a tremendous amount in the year and a half that I have been doing this. Rick Gale, if you're listening, get well soon, my friend. We miss talking to you. We want to get you more involved as well. And last but not least, as far as my thank yous, and I'm the one that sounds like I'm retiring here and far from it. But Mr. Kyle T. Mosley, you have been a tremendous friend to me. You have been a tremendous influence on, my career, giving me, countless opportunities up to this point, welcoming me into the Saints, broadcasting family. And that means so much. I do love all you guys. And, Kyle, I know you want to spend more time with your family, and I know that this has been a particularly tough year on you. Know that, myself, and every single one of us, Barry, John, Brendan, we all love you. And, I know we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. So thank you for everything that you have done. And in closing about our New Orleans Saints, guys, like we said at the beginning of the show, there's a lot to be proud of with this group. I know, hearkening back to the 2011 season and the 2012 playoff loss, last seconds to San Francisco, that one hurt. But this one has a different feel to it. It stung. Barry's talked a couple times. It's taken him a few weeks to recover. I'm not sure I recovered yet.
Sam Darnold going number one overall in your mock draft, which is.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
It's taken us all a while to recover. But let's look at our favorite football team for strength. We saw how close these guys were at the Pro Bowl. We saw there's everything, every bit to be so proud of these guys and so encouraged for the upcoming season, looking at the pieces that we have into place, looking at how they got there, and how, what the front office and the coaching staff has done to put this team together so far. And Barry said it a couple of times, this team is in a prime position to be contenders for years to come. So pay attention to what these guys, what this Saints team does this off season. It's going to be a very exciting off season, and let's just put our faith in our guys that they know what they're doing, because they haven't let us down yet.
All right, good stuff. And Mr. Hurstis, my man from Harry Hand.
There's not a whole lot I can add to all that. I thought we had a successful year, 2017. Of course, bringing me aboard to launch the new website after those few years with the fan-sided network and leaving there, of course, and coming to write for Saints News. Again, I appreciate all the confidence that you and the professor had in me. I know how tough of a year it was for you personally, losing the professor, losing your best friend like that. And I know it was a really, really tough stretch of months there throughout the summer and trying to recover from that. But, the year ended strong with a strong finish. And I'd like to think that Derek had a hand in that somehow, watching over us from above. So I think it was a successful year, and much like the Saints team itself, as Bob alluded to, much to build on in 2018 for the Saints News Network. Hopefully, I can get a few guys to start writing with me. Another one of the reasons why I haven't put out much material lately, besides the fact that I'm still reeling a bit from the Saints playoff loss, is just the fact that I'm overwhelmed because trying to cover a team from all aspects as the only person writing is very difficult. It's hard to do analysis and write stories on individual players and cover the draft, cover creative. There's just so many aspects of the team to cover, and to do it all as the only writer is damn near impossible. It's just hard to do.
Yeah, but you do it so well.
I just don't have enough time to do it, and I have a 6-year-old child that I'm also raising that I wasn't expecting to be raising a few years ago either. So that's also changed the equation. So I basically have to get up at 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning if I'm going to put out an article that day. So so it's just tough, and and I'm 50 years old. I'm not 25 anymore. So I can't just bounce up. It's hard when you get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. It's a lot easier doing it when you're 25 than it is when you're 50. So so that plays into it too. So it's just sometimes it requires a lot of motivation to write. Especially on a day when you'd rather just go back to sleep. Or either that or you have to write it the night before. But I've literally written an article at night and then wake up in the morning a few hours later to find out that something happened and the whole article needs to be scrapped because it's become obsolete in a matter of hours because the whole thing changed overnight while I was asleep. So so it's just a lot of that goes into the process, and so if we can get another one or two guys, I mean, if I just had one guy right now, if I just had one guy helping me right now, it would be such a tremendous help because then my goal is to have fresh content out daily. And I haven't met that standard here in the last few weeks. Because the season ended, so I need to take a break anyway. And again, because in the manner in which the Saints lost, that kind of took away some of my desire or some of my passion for writing because of the disappointment. But that only lasts for a few days or for a few weeks, and then. You got to just dive right back into it head first because as I alluded to throughout the show, the NFL is a 24/7 business. This ain't the old days where you took 6 months off and then came back for 6 months. And got serious for 6 months. Back in the old days, NFL players literally had a double life because at 6 months they played football and the other 6 months. They did whatever they wanted, for the other half of their life. But now it's a 24/7 business, and you got to stay on it constantly. If you don't, then somebody else is coming behind you to take that spot. And the Saints News Network is not any different because Saints media is the same way. If you don't cover it, somebody else is going to jump on it, and I get ideas for stories all the time, and I can't tell you how many articles I've literally had to scrap or put in the trash because Joel A. Erickson of the New Orleans Advocate or Josh Katzenstein from the New Orleans Times-Picayune has already went and wrote the same article or covered the same topic and published it maybe a half hour or an hour before I did, and I didn't even know that it was out, until I got on the internet and seen that they put the article out. So, I've literally have had to, have written articles that have never gotten published, have never seen the light of day because I had to scrap them because another writer beat me to it. And if I had a staff of guys covering it like I did at the previous job, that I got somebody that might jump in there and write it, and I can get it published and put it out at the same speed as the big boys. The New Orleans Advocate, New Orleans Times-Picayune, all those guys, Canal Street Chronicles, even. They could have that stuff out in a matter of minutes. Okay. Well, if I'm the only guy writing, you're not going to see nothing from me at least for a few hours.
Barry,
don't worry about
that.
Might not even sit to the next day. So,
but we're going to get some help for you, Barry. Don't worry about that. So,
oh yeah. But look, I'm looking forward to a lot of great things in 2018, and so let's move forward and see how it goes.
All right, good to hear, man. Well, guys, like I said, it's not going to be the end of hearing my voice, but you're not going to hear it as much in 2018. But
you will not be silenced. You just taking it easy is all it is.
Yeah, the old man needs to take it easy, but we
got to rest the bones.
Yeah, but I'm all for bringing in some great talent, and we're going to do that, and we're going to have a good time. All right, guys, last thing, and I know it's hurtful and painful, but right quickly, BB, who do you have in the Super Bowl? Who's going to win?
It's really hard to go against Tom Terrific, especially after what happened last year. Watching that game with Patriots fans was something else as well. So, as nice of a story as it is for the Eagles to get there, they're still chasing their first ever Super Bowl championship, and being able to recover without Carson Wentz and have Nick Foles play maybe the game of his life in the NFC Championship game. It's a nice story, but at the end of the day, he's playing the GOAT. And it's really hard to go against Belichick and Brady, so I'll take them in a tight one, tighter than maybe people expect. I'm going to go 27-21. No game-winning touchdown or anything. Maybe the Eagles make it look a little closer than it is. However, from kickoff on, it's a Patriot-dominated game.
All right, excellent. Bob, who you got?
There's no way I would place a cent of money against the New England Patriots in a game like this. Philadelphia deserves a big nod of respect, their direction for what they've accomplished just to get to this point. If you look closely at the Eagles, they're not only missing their starting quarterback Carson Wentz, but they've suffered some big injury blows along their starting offense and defense along the course of the year. Doug Peterson, I believe, is one of the better coaches in the NFL. I love what he's done with this group. But there's no way that the New England Patriots are going to lose this Super Bowl game. I kind of agree with Brendan. Actually, I had a very similar score. I'm going to go with the Patriots 27-20. But this is a history-making group, and as much as the Eagles deserve applauded for getting to this point, the New England Patriots deserve a big nod. Regardless of how you feel about the way they put together their dynasty and other factors involved, and I give a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the commissioner's office for that, what Belichick and what Brady and what that Patriots organization has been able to do in this era of free agency is downright remarkable. And they're just going to put another cherry on top of this Sunday with another Super Bowl championship. I'm going to go New England 27, Philadelphia 20.
Awesome. And Mr. Hurstis, your thoughts?
Well, to me, it comes down to one simple thing. Bill Belichick is the best coach maybe ever in the history of the NFL. And what does Bill Belichick do better than anybody else? Well, why have the Patriots won 5 Super Bowls, possibly about to win their 6th?
Preparation.
And what he does better than everybody else, is that he takes away your best player. And I guarantee you, Bill Belichick is going to take away their best player, which I guess for me would probably be Alshon Jeffrey. I wouldn't even say it would be Nick Foles. If you take if you take away Alshon Jeffrey, and I guarantee you he'll have Malcolm Butler and Alshon Jeffrey probably, and he's gonna make life miserable for him. You're gonna have to get a player like a Nelson Aguilar or whatever. It's gonna have to step up. Zach Ertz, obviously the phenomenal tight end for Philadelphia. He'll have to step up. They're gonna do. I guarantee you, they're gonna bring the pressure on Nick Foles early and often. He's gonna try to get Nick Foles rattled because he knows if he can get Foles off his game, that he will be extremely ineffective. And if you could take away his top target, which if it ain't Zach Ertz, then it's obviously going to have to be Alshon Jeffrey. And if you take that away, to me, the Eagles' defense is what carried them. To me, as great as the Eagles' offense allegedly was, it was their defense that got them to the Super Bowl. And I said that way back in the regular season when I was covering the NFC playoff picture. I said again that the Eagles' defense would be what made them the most dangerous team. It wasn't their offense. I felt it was their defense, and I was right. So, but that said, Belichick is just a master game planner, and I just don't. Unless Nick Foles just plays out of his mind. And the Eagles' defense obviously has another phenomenal game as they've been having. They just got to play the perfect game, almost, to me. I just don't see them doing it. I like the Patriots. I'm going to go Patriots 27, Eagles 13.
All right. Well, I got the Patriots 31-17, man. So that's going to be my pick for the game. I just think it's going to be a tough one, man, and it might just be Nick Foles. I guess coming back to reality is a good way of saying it. So, but yeah, I agree. I agree. We'll see how everything transpires, but hopefully it'll be a good, entertaining game. Just don't like to have those blowouts. And Boogie Cousins, man, get well. That was a hard fall all the way around for the New Orleans Pelicans. Sorry to see what happened to him and his season-ending injury. All right, guys, we will be back in a few weeks to talk about free agency. And then we're going to go into our previews for the draft. All right. Hey, man, I appreciate each one of you guys. Love y'all, and love you guys in the Who Dat Nation. And this is Kyle T. Mosley from Saints News Radio. You guys have a great one and have a great Super Bowl. Stay safe. Take care.